Hi everyone, this is Ahmedini again. In this video I'm going to cover this topic, which is open sourcing LuulPOS. LuulPOS is a point of sale system which was developed with JHipster, and the part of the code that I'm going to open source tonight is the Spring Boot backend application and also the React front end, which is the back office or the admin. And in the next few days, I'll be open sourcing the client side of the system, which is developed with React Native. And this produces two applications, which one of them is an Android application that you can run on your mobile and also on the tablets. And this is going to be the terminal. And along with this, we're also going to open source the iOS client. So next we're going to see the steps that we will take to open source this project, and these are the 5 steps that we will take. But just to give you an overview of what's going to happen, if you look at this diagram, this is the steps that we will take in summary. So we will push our code to GitHub repository, and then to support continuous integration, we're going to connect Travis CI to our repository. And then we'll configure Travis CI to build a Docker image of our application and then push it to DockerHub registry. This project is going to have similar open source license as it is parent project, which is JHipster, and the license is Apache 2.0. Now let's see the code that we're going to open source, which we have previously generated in the previous videos that I have recorded. So this is the code that we're going to open source, and we are going to push it to GitHub. For those of you who have not watched the previous videos when we were generating this application, the two most important files that we have used is the application JDL file and LuulPOS JDL file. The application has the generic application information that you need to generate an application from a JDL file, and the LuulPOS JDL file has the business logic, the entities, the relationships, the enums, and all that kind of information that this project consists of. And in here you'll be able to find all the classes, the Java classes, and also the React Web App application in this folder. So let's see the next step from our 5 steps. So the first step says creating GitHub repository and pushing the LuulPOS application code to GitHub. So let's go to GitHub and create a project for this backend project. For this, I'm going to use the organization name, and we'll call this repository LuulPOS backend, as we're going to have the front end application as well. And we will not give description for now. Let's create it. And now that we have created a repository, so let's just copy these two steps. So let's push the project into GitHub. First, we need to initialize the Git project. So let's first see where we are. We're in the right place. It's been initialized. We need to add all the files to Git repository, the local one. So now we have that. Let's commit. We'll call it first commit. So all have been added. Now we need to add the origin that we have copied. So let's just make sure that we follow the same user. I think we've started with as you do. And then we'll push it Okay, it's telling us that it has successfully pushed, so let's check it and refresh this page. Yep, we can see that the project has been pushed and it's on GitHub. We'll change the README and all that kind of stuff to accordingly work for this particular project. Now we have pushed our application to GitHub. Let's see the next step. So the next step says activating LuulPOS GitHub repository on Travis to support continuous integration. But before we complete step 2, let's skip to step 3 and generate this .travis.yml file using JHipster's CI-CD subgenerator. And this file is required by Travis so to know what kind of environment to build and what also to do with your build, whether to deploy it to a particular server or not. So let's first generate. If you have a look at the root of the project, there is no .travis.yml file, but we're going to generate now. So this is a generator wizard, so it's going to ask us questions of which tool to use for continuous integration. So we have a lot of options like Jenkins and Azure, GitLab, and Travis. So we're going to select Travis, and then we'll say we're going to deploy it to Heroku. We're not going to go to deploy to Heroku, but we'll deploy to our own server. But let's select that. It doesn't add any Heroku stuff for the time being. So if we do ls, we should have, actually let's do lsa to see hidden files, and we should have .travis.yml file. And then if we let's say travis.yml, we can see that it has some instructions like the operating system is going to be Linux, and we're going to have Docker enabled so that it generates a Docker image. The language we're going to have, one of them is Node.js, and JDK file, information, caching, directories, and environmental variables. We're going to add some environmental variables of for example, the DockerHub username and password in here, which currently this doesn't add, and we're going to also encrypt it because we don't want everyone in the world to see my username and password for DockerHub for the login, but Travis needs this DockerHub credentials to upload the image that it has generated or built to DockerHub. Also, before install, it's going to do these instructions that come under before install, and also it's going to install. So basically what it's doing is it's trying to mimic our local development environment and install all the software that our project requires on the build system that it's going to build our project on. Currently we don't have any information relating to DockerHub, but we're going to add that later. So let's quickly add this file to GitHub and then enable Travis. So we have added, let's quickly check if the file has arrived on GitHub. And if we refresh it, we should be able to see .travis YAML file, which includes all the information that has been generated by JHipster CI-CD generator. Next, we need to go back to our steps and see what step we need to do next. We need to go back to the second step, which we skipped, and it requires that we activate the LuulPOS GitHub repository on Travis. So let's go to Travis, and you can sign in with your GitHub account. So now we're logged in. The next thing we need to do is we need to add repositories to GitHub. We need to tell which repository. So first thing we need to do is we need to sync our account. And because we configured it under organization Lul solution, so we have to click this, otherwise you won't see the repositories. And the particular one we're interested that we've created is the LuulPOS plugin, so which we need to enable it here. Now it is enabled, and Travis should be able to build our application. There are two ways to trigger a build on Travis that I know of. One is to manually click this button. Another one is to push code to the Git branch that you have configured with Travis, like the master branch. So let's click trigger a build. As you can see, it has started building our project. And if we click the project name, it's gonna take us a detailed page that we would be able to see the logs and everything that's happening. So if you just click this little circle button, it will take us to the end of the log. Basically it means tail the logs. So we can see it building, downloading stuff too. This is the first time, so it will download the Maven dependencies and also the npm dependencies for the project. As you can see, the log output on the browser has stopped at 10,000 lines. But what you can do is, if you want to see the full log, you can click this link, raw log, and it will give you the full log, which is not truncated. And you can just go to the end and see what's happening. So let's go back and check the status of our build. We can see that it's still running, and the duration so far is 8 minutes. Okay, now we can see that Travis has successfully built our project. Everything went green, and you can see that it has passed. You can also see how long it's taken, 11 minutes 37, and that's why it's good to have continuous integration and everything automated rather than waiting 11 minutes of your time. It's good that Travis CLI has built our WAR file, but actually what we want is not the WAR file. We want a Docker image that contains the WAR file that we can deploy anywhere we want, or we can push to DockerHub. And next I'm going to show you how to modify the travis.yml file so that we can include the DockerHub credentials and also tell Travis CLI to generate a Docker image rather than a WAR file. Now that we have done this, let's go back to the steps, and we're on step 4, which says encrypting DockerHub credentials with Travis CLI. So you need to download Travis CLI to be able to encrypt the username and password. Like I've mentioned before, you don't want everyone to see your username and password. But before we do that, we need to install Travis CLI. And the way to do that on Mac is to type sudo install Travis. The next thing we need to do is we need to run travis encrypt command. But before I do that, let me take you to the travis.yml file. And this is where we're going to add the encrypted content of the DockerHub credentials. So let's go back to the terminal and type travis encrypt and then we give the environment a variable. We're going to have user, and this is going to be Lul solutions my Docker ID, and then we'll add it under nv global. So if we just enter it now, it's going to ask us, is that the correct repository that you want to have this? And I'm going to say yes. So if we go back to our file, and you can see that it has added this line which is going to hold our username. And the next thing we're going to do is to go back to the command line, and this time we need to add password. We'll call it pass. I'm going to type my password for DockerHub. So also added this under global section, so you can see that we have another secure. It's good to label these two accordingly so that you don't get confused. Travis will know which string is which because it uses a very advanced and complex algorithm to encode this, and then later when it's running it decodes and rebuilds the user and password. But for us, let's have it labeled, and this was the Docker user, and this was also the Docker password. So we'll just have pass in there. Let's save it. The next thing we need to do is we need to declare another environment variable, and we'll call it commit. This will hold for us the first 7 characters of the Travis commit string. Okay, now we need to save it. One more thing I need to add at the end is what happens after success, and this is when the WAR file is successfully built. Obviously we want the Docker image generation to start. So I've already copied this into my clipboard, so I'm going to paste it here. And basically what we're saying is just what we used to do manually, which is logging into DockerHub and now using the Docker user and password we have up there, and which is encrypted basically. So Travis will take care of that, and then we'll export the latest tag as a tag, and then we'll have also where we're going to push it to, which is our repository called LuulPOS, and then we'll tag it and then we'll push it, and that's it. Nothing else actually. One more thing is, if you go up and have a look at this, this is the command that builds the war artifact that we are going to include in the Docker image. So we need to tell Travis not to run this, but to run a command that will build. And if you remember, we have been using this command to build our Docker images. So this command will generate the Docker image locally, and then we have these commands in here that would just pick that Docker image and then push it to DockerHub. We just save it. I'm going to push our change to GitHub, and I'm hoping that it will trigger a Travis CI build command, and currently as you can see we're on build number 1. So let's do that and see if actually that works. We've seen how to trigger it from manually from here. So now let's go to our command and add it to git add, and let's push so git actually as you do git command modified the get file, the travis.yml file to include Docker image generation and pushing DockerHub. Now as you do git push, very good. Now if you go back to here and we'll refresh, we don't have any request. So first, let's go back to the dashboard. So there's only one, and if we go back to GitHub and have a look at if we have updated the changes have come to the Travis YAML file. Obviously, that you can see that 27 seconds ago it's been updated, and our comments is there. So yep, we have the change here. Let's go back and refresh if this has triggered the command. Yep, we can see that. So build number 2 has started and it's running this time, and if we click we will be able to see the logs, and we'll go into tail, see, so it's taking time to gather some information that it needs to build with. So job's already running, it's cloning, and it's setting up all the environmental variables. And you can see the Docker user and Docker password environment variable that we set. Actually, we don't even need the commit now because of I'm hard coding latest as a tag, but in the future I'm going to need that. It does a lot of stuff that normally you would do manually. That's why it's called continuous integration. It's really very useful and it saves a lot of your time messing around with things. The good thing is you can have tests as well. So if a build fails, then you don't even have to push it to DockerHub. And now we have hit the 10,000 line on the browser. So let's just check it on the dashboard. So it is running. We can also just click the raw file and see where it is. One way to solve this problem is to reduce the verbosity of our npm command when running our application. So you can see all the commands are here, and it's just running as it would run normally on our local machine. By the way, what I need to show you is in our Docker hub, currently we don't have any image. So there is no images. I'm hoping that when it completes building, it's going to push the image with the latest tag here. So let's go back and watch the progress. Currently the duration is 7 minutes. It will take a while, so I'm going to fast forward to the completion. Okay, now we can see that it has successfully built and it has taken more than 15 minutes to complete. We should have a Docker image in DockerHub by now. We're going to see the logs and what happened also, but let's quickly go to DockerHub, and if you remember, we didn't have anything here. So now hopefully if we refresh, we should be able, an image that has been pushed by Travis for us. Okay, now we can see our image and it's been last modified 2 minutes ago. That's when it's pushed actually. That's it. It's brilliant. So that covers the full cycle that I was showing you at the beginning. We need to go back to the logs, and then maybe we should be able to see the full logs at the end. Now if we click the view log, we can see at the end what happened. So as you can see, it's preparing to push the image to DockerHub, and it's used our encrypted credentials. Yep, voila, and that's it. The full cycle completed. Now we have an open source project which is configured for continuous integration, and in the future I'm going to add the client side as well. So I'm gonna continue my tutorials on this. It's just started basically making open sourcing. There's a lot of stuff that I need to do next about the documentation,